Vatican as a whole kind of went back to...
Wander back to the gate.
Back to the gate.
That's where Torbjorn does his thing, like, I'm sorry I spoke for all of us when it isn't my place, but if anyone disagrees, like, feel free to step forward.
And I was like, yeah. So I wasn't there for that, but I would have said, yeah, like, yeah, we agree with you.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So yeah, I came up afterwards.
Because he didn't really even strictly speak for us. He was basically like,
He was...
do you want to be, like, under their control? And we were like, no!
He was, like, stating a fact. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like...
We are the people of the North. We are free above all else. Like, and then everyone was, like, shouting in agreement. Because he did ask at one point.
So yeah, we got to camp, and then a whole bunch of things were happening after that point for the night. We can speed run through. There was the Wyverns were having a wedding.
The Wyverns were going to have a wedding. The Hadrians were doing
The
their
masquerade. I'll explain that story.
The Vatican did their full moon ceremony, which was basically like one of the crones said a thing, and then we were like, okay, cool. Now we just hang out.
Yay! It was basically a party. It was everyone had a party.
That was really all it was. It was meant to be kind of a bigger thing, but with it being a swamp, we didn't do a lot of cooking.
Yeah.
Like we wanted to.
I think that's when the ham got up there. Cause I think ham. That's when the ham went
The ham
missing.
and the cheese.
I had a big thing of ham, and it just disappeared.
That ham is pretty much all I ate that night.
I didn't know what I ate. I don't think I ate much of that that night.
I was really bad about not eating.
Long story short, there was a lot of stuff going on. And so, was there anything else with the full moon thing?
Oh, yes. So, I had a lot of interactions with my buddy Olm at this point. We are, in the Hrafen, good friends with the Rodenjar now. But at the start
Different
of
clans.
game, we weren't. Yes. So the Rodenjar are more of a hunter clan, and we were very isolationist until this. But I'd had a few interactions with Olm, including when I was sitting under a tree recuperating for several hours. They were buying things for me from the Suzak merchants. So they brought me a bunch of ingredients and were telling other people to give the potionsmiths and spell scribes the ingredients and things that they need to do things. So I had a whole bunch of people just walk up to me and give me tokens and things. This is also where I mommed Gareth.
Yes. So, both of us are huge fans of the Skill Tree channel. Mm-hmm. Skill Tree live in anachronism. There's a whole slew of people.
Yeah.
I would have loved to meet Kramer at the game, but he didn't
epic.
come this year.
Yeah. I'd had interactions with Kit and Maddie during, like, build day and stuff, but our characters hadn't had any interaction at all. So we were sitting outside the tavern.
So
which
Gareth is Kit's character.
Yes. So it was semi-in-game, but also not always. It was very nebulous. We weren't really sure where the tavern ended and where the in-game area started. I was Camp Mom. I resigned from Camp Mom at 10 a.m. effective game start. Officially. Like, I told Runar, I'm done. I'm not going to be Camp Mom. Volley is not Camp Mom. 2 hours later, our buddy, who is, like, the clan spokesman, the founder of our clan, Ogvi, had to leave. He had a family emergency, and he had to pack up and leave. So within about 2 hours, I'm walking across the bridge, and he goes, you are now the speaker for the Hrafen. And I'm like, what? So
Camp Mom.
Camp Mom, no Mom, Clan Mom.
Camp Mom reinstated.
Dang it. But Camp Mom can't take care of herself. And apparently neither can Volley when she's being Clan Mom and freaking out about somebody running off. All the time. Every time.
Eventually got to, in my view, I got stuck in camp a lot. Eventually got to the point, if I was going to have any fun, I was like, I can't keep waiting on people.
I didn't even know you were in camp that entire time.
No, it's okay. I'm not blaming anyone. It's just, I felt like I was in camp, and eventually got to the point of where I was like, if I'm going to have fun in this game, if I'm going to do stuff, I can't wait for people. I need to leave and go on my own. I thought you were doing stuff
while we were sitting by the tavern. I didn't know you weren't doing stuff.
Because I was in camp trying to fix the fallen shades.
Oh, I didn't know. you spent that.
Yeah, because I was taking them apart. I was trying to fix it all. I was trying to get everything set up. And eventually, at that point, that's when I just left and started doing crap.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Again, it was just a crappy circumstance for the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just got hit with the perfect trifecta for things to
mess up.
Be a mess.
And eventually, I was at the point of like, yeah, with you being camp mom, it was like, I don't want to like. Basically, it felt like I was the one cooking food for everybody. I was the one doing stuff. I felt like, I wouldn't say like camp. I mean,
you were kind of camp dad.
I was kind of, but it's like I didn't really telling people what to do. I was just trying to help get things set up. No. And eventually, I got really sick of it. I was like, no one's even eating the food because everyone was busy doing other stuff. And eventually, that's the point of just like, I stopped and I left.
We just gave up.
But anyway, you mommed.
Yeah, I was sitting under that tree for ages, and I was momming everyone who walked by, and at one point he comes.
Did you drink water?
Literally, yes. He comes through the gates, and he's looking a little rough. Because it's hot. It's freaking hot, and he's in all black.
He's wearing all black trench coat sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, have you had water? And he kind of goes, I can't remember when I did. And I'm like, go drink water. Go drink water. Right now. He's like, okay. Granted, this was all, like, in character, and Volley had no idea who he was. None. And then later, Olin comes back and says something about Gareth being a spy master. But it wasn't until the second time I mommed him.
I know the first time. I don't know about the second time.
So the second time was largely the same. But he came through and he looked even worse. And I was like, when was the last time you had water? Because I was sitting under this tree for a good, like, probably 3 hours or so. And I was like, when was the last time you had water? And he was like, I just had some. And I was like, okay, have you checked your salts? Like, have you had any salt? Here's some cashews. So you came.
Oh, yeah, my cashews. That was my cashews.
Yeah.
The delicious cashews. I love cashews.
Yeah.
I had 2 interactions with him in game.
I had 4? Yes. Yeah. Because at one point we knew there was a battle coming. Like, you could... In game, you could, like, sense it. Out of game, I knew because I talked to other people.
There's a few things they could do to improve that. I really like the idea of having, like, horns blowing before. Like, intermediately before.
Yeah, that could be cool. Like, every 30 minutes.
My interactions with Skill Tree, because I guess we're talking about Skill Tree now, interactions. My first one I think I had was, I was talking with, I don't remember who it was, but I think it was Hadrian. And he was walking, and a conversation brought up about Gareth, but like, yes, I think he's like, he knows the spy master, he like knows the secrets. And I was like, he looks a little bit intimidating. Or like something like that. And we're talking, you think so? Oh no. I'm not really sure if he seems intimidating or not. And so I yelled, hey yo, over there! And he looked over. Do you think yourself intimidating? No, really, I think I'm pretty charismatic, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I'm like, okay. And that was it. It was great. Later down the line, actually it's probably best we say it now, before, because at the masquerade it comes up later. The second time we did it was I was talking with him, and I mentioned I was a map maker, a cartographer, and we're talking, he was like, oh, who'd be really interested would be Evelyn, who was Maddie's character. And he said, she's trying to look for trade routes and stuff like that, and maps would be great. And at this point, I already had a prop that I had made. I planned to sell it. I made a huge amount of maps to sell, and I actually sold a lot of them later. I didn't really sell them at this point. And it was one that my character, my father had made. And it was really roughed up, kind of burnt, kind of bloody, because my father died. In the game, my father had died. He was killed by bandits. It just really worked out really well when Gareth had said that Evelyn might be interested in this. It just really worked out like, yeah, of course, that a person might be interested in trade routes that a very experienced and old-fashioned cartographer would have. Secret routes through the mountains up to the north. And so it worked out perfectly.
No. I'm not sure if that's a good thing for Gareth and them to have.
I did think about this. Out of game, in game they didn't have the map. Out of game they do have the map. I'll explain that story later. Long story short, that evening was the masquerade. The full moon party was happening. The Wyvern wedding was not happening, I suppose.
It was supposed to happen, and then it didn't happen.
And it got canceled. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think someone got married IRL, like at a game, and they was gonna do a whole marriage in game.
Yes.
That's
so
what
Theseus has the person who plays Theseus has a wife, and they were going to also get married in game.
Really cute. That's really nice.
It is adorable to say.
Basically, in the game, there's quite a few people who have sort of like famous person status in the game. Things like Theseus or Oaken, people who've just like. Everyone who's at the game or people who are in the community know who they are. Mm-hmm. Just because they've done something great in the game, whether that's actually in game or actually out of game for the game. Theseus is one of them. Oaken the Troll Slayer is one because he killed a troll. He built a gate. I heard about because in the hotel room later during the pizza party, I heard the full story of the troll and I was like, that makes it even funnier knowing the full story because I only heard bits and pieces.
I heard it too.
But then I heard the full story from him, and I was like, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's kind of how actual legends get transformed into things, but...
And we just keep making it bigger.
Bigger,
it's
yeah.
Great.
I'm not going to say anything, it's for him to tell, but...
It's a good story. If you guys come, you should ask him.
Definitely ask him. A cool guy. Anyway, Theseus is one of those people, and it was cool. I was like, oh, because he's getting married. Awesome. And it didn't happen. Around that time, that's when the masquerade started. And as far as Griff... or even me knew, it was invite only. And like I said, I'm a map maker, and I hadn't really sold any maps at all. I didn't sell any maps. And I was like, you know what? There's probably rich people at the masquerade. I'm going to go sell some maps. So what I did is in the middle of the night, while everyone was doing stuff, I hiked my way up to the bazaar, and then I was met by Hadrian Guard. Hadrian Guard's name was Matthew. I found out afterwards. Pretty cool dude. He does HEMA. He owns a few businesses. Cool dude. Almost everyone there was wearing masks, and I was like, okay, I need to break in somehow. First order of business, I'm gonna talk to the guard and see what the vibes are. If that doesn't work, I can just find some way to sneak in. And so the tavern, I want to say at the point of the bazaar, there was a second tavern built by a couple Russian dudes, pretty cool dudes. Revno was one of the Russian guys I mentioned earlier. There was also the other brother was Hadrian. And they actually built like a wooden structure of a tavern with like tables and stuff inside. It was really cool. They did a good job. That's where the masquerade was held. Long story short, I was in it and I was talking to the guard, talking to Matthew. And was like, okay, I heard y'all having a masquerade, okay? I'm here to sell maps, I was like being honest, like, yeah, I'm here to sell maps. And it was like, okay, I see, you want to get in, okay, I see. I lost my coin purse. And I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, he needs a bribe to get in. Okay, well, I have one of these filled with a few coins in my pocket. I was like, oh, okay, let me go see if I can find it. I was like, let me go around the tent, pretend to find it, and go give it to you. And I was like, I started to go do this, and I started to go walk away and did it. It's like, he said, no, it's okay, I'll go find it later. You can just head on in. And I'm like, sweet, okay. I talked to him later. He was actually trying to buy a map. He was actually trying to buy one of my wares. He actually lost his coin purse. I'm really sad.
So sad.
Really sad. I hope to get him a map next year. And so I managed to get into the masquerade, and there were a lot of people talking in game, talking about deals or just hanging out and doing stuff, and it was really cool because at that minute I just started being a total like New York paperboy. Maps for sale. And I don't have it on me at the minute, but I have a whole little setup here, like a little scroll case and a side. I was basically just going around and just unrolling the maps, just showing them what I got. At first, people were like, they saw maps, I was selling maps, and I was like, and they're like, kind of like, it was really cool, and I was like, I could see in their faces, they were like, I want to, I'm kind of disappointed, but I can't afford the silver for this, because silver was rare in the game. Mm-hmm. I can't afford silver. And I was like, pay what you want. Well, what do you think this is worth? And that's kind of what it was. Like, what do you think this is worth? And that was one of the best decisions I made. Because as I was going around, I got a whole bunch of crap. I got anything from silver to the gems I need for spell card making. I got a bunch of random crap.
Ingredients. You got potion
ingredients. I got some potion ingredients for her. And then that's when I met Almazi and a bunch of the other bards. And they were doing their tunes, singing in the tavern. Anyway, that's where I met Almazi. I'm not going to dox his IOL Discord name. It was really cool. I only knew it was him after the fact. But basically, I gave them a map as a tip, for being a bard or whatever. Because they were passing down a bowl, I think. for the other people to put silver in. And that's where my story I mentioned earlier with the undead comes in. That's where that comes in with Liam. I found 2 arbiters. The arbiters are sort of like the rule lawyers. The gamekeepers. They were the ones, like, in game, like some magical order or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they were basically the ones keeping the game physically in order.
I think they're like magic librarians.
I kind of got the vibe. So the two arbiters were the Veiled Arbiter and the Huntress Arbiter. And the Huntress Arbiter had a little stuffed animal raccoon up here. It was hilarious. That was a possum, I think. And so basically we were talking, and they were actually interested in the maps. And, like, I love it, because at first when I said, oh, we sell maps, everyone just assumed it was the printed maps that I made from the map. But then I unrolled them, and I just see everyone's face like, oh, that's what it is. Because all my maps were hand-drawn, right? I'm very proud of them. And, I saw the faces light up behind the mask, and I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And so that's where this came from. I got this from the Veiled Arbiter. And this is a lot of good stuff. I completely forgot about it, so I never got to use it, because the game ended not too long.
Midday the next day.
Yeah, midday the next day. So I didn't get a chance to use it. So she gave me that pack of coin. The other arbiter debated for a long time, and was eventually said, how about this? Why don't you come to me after the masquerade, and I can get you a grand treasure, or something along that line. And I was like, interesting, okay. I'd be interested in that. So then I went out and sold a bunch more maps. That's why I met Evelyn. That's how the story kind of loops around. Like, the stories are like circles that are like interwoven. It's like a Venn diagram, but like 20 feet wide. So eventually I finally met up with Evelyn, and she was very interested in the map. And eventually you got to the point, I showed her most of the maps I had on hand, but the big one was back in camp.
My tent.
I had 2 sets of maps. I had maps about this size and maps that were about that size. And eventually it was going to, eventually I was like, okay, I'll get this to you tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how that whole thing came up. And I'm really sad it didn't work out. It was my own fault. A lot of crap happened. Eventually, after that point, that's when I met up with the Huntress again. And so me and the 2 arbiters were like, okay, let me lead you to a grand treasure, or something along that line. And I was like, okay, I'm very intrigued. What does this mean? Like, is it information? Is it something like that? I don't believe they said treasure exactly, but great reward or something like that, in exchange for one of the maps. And so they led me up, and then as we were walking up the hill, away from the bazaar, towards the woods, pitch black darkness, very dark, that's when we saw the shadow arriving, coming down the hill. And we were very, like, we all slowed down. Eventually we stopped as a figure in, like, white paint on their face, looking absolutely dead in the eyes, distraught, was Liam. He just looked so, like, unironically, I used the words right, drop dead tired. Still and very much like what looked like the face paint from the undead battle. He was just walking, and I don't think he noticed us until a few feet where he just could have looked up at us. And, like, we were like, I was definitely thinking, is this part of it? Like, is like are the arbiters with the undead or something like that? And he just sort of looked at us, and, like, they said, oh hey, and they just walked off. And we just kind of, like, watched him go. And we're like, okay, continuing on. She went up ahead to make sure there were no bandits or anything like that. She came back down and was like, okay, go search up there. There's going to be something of great value. And so I went up there.
She didn't go to check bandits. She put that malice there for you.
Yes, I know for a fact. For a fact. And so we went, so I went around, I looked around, and I was like, at that point, there was the malice. So the malice, the whole point of Reckoning was for all different factions to gather malice. It was to gather resources, whether it be silver, malice, or anything. And malice was these little crystals. They were glowed. I thought they were made by, like, some sort of company or some sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But then I found the Discord was made by this guy, posted here. Did an amazing job. Like, incredible. They were so cool. These little crystals that glowed. And
unfortunately you can't turn them off, though.
Yeah.
So they just always glowed, and the bottoms kept falling out of them when we threw them in the chests.
She was like, okay, I don't know what's up there. So I walked up, and then I saw a glow in the brush. And I was like, I'm going to stretch this out a bit. And so Griff was very much a humorous character, very much based off myself. If you know me,
he's a goof.
Very goof. And so, basically, I was like, okay, I walked in the forest, and I just looked up. And I was just, like, looking up in the trees. I just go in a big circle. And I was like, I did it long enough so it wasn't annoying for the arbiters, because I wanted them to have fun, too. So I went out, and I was like, I looked down, I was like, oh, there it is. I picked it up, and I hiked out. And I was like, oh, I found it. Oh, this is pretty. Because Malice...
it's bad.
Malice is bad for
bad.
you. It's basically actually kind of like the One Ring from Lord of the Rings.
A little bit, yeah. So it enhances your greed, your anger. It's not good. It is literally
very
just
possessive,
condensed evil.
With it, you're supposed to act like you want to keep it at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And so
the only ones
Griff
who can carry it and not literally take damage from it are artisans, and we're both artisans.
So we were okay to touch it, but we still get affected by the whole roleplay thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Griff, being a very innocent character for the most part,
Mostly.
by choice,
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, this looks pretty," and they were like, "Oh, don't look at it too long, you'll get lost in it." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," and then I stuffed it in my pocket. And I was like, okay, thank you all. And so I walked them down to the tavern, and then I left to camp. I was at Masquerade for a good, an hour, I would say.
I met up with you after you dropped it off, right? Because I think
It
I
might have
saw you
been
drop it
there.
off.
It might have been, at the chest.
So prior to that, the whole thing with Uhtred being a schemer, we'd somehow acquired additional malice, and he was, discussing what we wanted to do about it.
I was there for, I was there for after that conversation.
Yes. And we kind of established this thing where, Volley was going to be the one to carry things if needed, and that if Volley got in trouble, people just needed to shout her name, and it needed to continue to echo, and everyone should converge. And
I thought that was a stupid idea. I just want to say, so first off, she's Camp Mom. So if somebody needs something, she's going to be yelling her name regardless.
Yeah.
So that was it. And
but also, in-game, I'm not Camp Mom. So there is a bit of an important distinction there.
Can people tell the difference, though? Anyway, I came after the conversation. In my opinion, didn't matter at the point, which is fine. It was it didn't matter. It was their point of the game.
I didn't choose that it would be my name. I think somebody else said it should just be Volley so that it was less confusing. But,
I was going to say, danger!
I don't know. But I think they also didn't want to shout, anything to give away that I had the malice. They just wanted something to be able to shout repeatedly to get everyone's attention.
Mm-hmm. That's what I love about Reckoning is it's very much a community game. Mm-hmm. People make up stuff. And so, yeah, it's really... after the fact, it was really cool to hear this. They came up with a plan to protect her.
Eventually, I just started calling it Echoes.
That was a cool name. Echoes, that's a cool name.
Yeah. Because the whole point is, everyone needed to echo it to really make sure that people were aware what was going on. But I had picked up a malice from out by the out-of-game camp that Sig had found earlier. And I was carrying that around for ages. We didn't know that we were supposed to immediately take them back. There was a lot of, weird stuff with the rules that a lot of people weren't super clear on. There was a lot of, conflicting information for a lot of different things, and some of that just comes down to timing. A lot of the rules weren't finalized until considerably too late.
During the game, some of the rules.
During the game. Also, apparently, we were only ever supposed to carry one, which is confusing, because then they also got the Suzak who rated us later with 14 malice. And
it was 20. I don't know.
Yeah. Don't know. Anyway, I'm carrying a malice in my pouch at this point, and it's getting dark, and we're heading up the hill for the moonlight ceremony, and I have 2 guys with me because I have malice. I'm not traveling anywhere alone. Echoes is in effect.
She gets robbed, yeah.
Game over. But we're walking by the tree near the fight arena and the quest board. I think it's Fafnir is the name of the gentleman who I've been talking with a lot on the Discord, and I believe he's the one who is...
Fafnir was doing a lot of crap. He was everywhere.
But anyway, he looks down and he's like, oh! And I look over and there's just a malice on the ground. Glowing.
I didn't know this.
And he starts to reach for it. I'm like, no. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. I can handle it. You cannot. So I pick it up and I stick it in my bag. And we go to camp.
I didn't know that part. I didn't know that part. That's funny.
And then I'm like, I got stuff. And I throw them in the chest.
No, I thought that was the point with Olin of like, you like take these up.
No, that was later. That was later? The orc fight.
Okay. Because, that was a cool moment she told me later, which we'll get into.
Yeah. So I kind of ramped up throughout the game. So like the first couple times I handled Malice, I didn't do a lot with it. I guess I didn't think that like it would also affect our personalities because the whole thing is like we're
corrupted.
Safe from it essentially, from being like hurt by it. So I didn't even think about the fact that it could corrupt us in advance, so I like didn't think about it, but also like I had it in my pouch, so I wasn't touching it or looking at it.
So you had far more interactions with Malice than I did.
I had so many. I carried at least 5 Malice.
I had 2 total.
Like throughout the whole game, I carried like 5 Malice. Oh no, it's more. I handled more than that because later that night, Oln went and raided the Hadrians with a Suzak.
I was there at that point.
Yeah, so Oln comes back after like being gone because Oln just kind of like vanishes, runs off and does things, and we're like, it's Oln, they'll turn up. He comes back and he stumbles into camp.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to say I thought they were pretending to be drunk.
For a split second, I thought they were drunk too, and then I saw the glow of the Malice in their shirt. I saw it tucked kind of in by the belt, and I saw it glow, and I was like, oh. And Volley goes, oh no. So I'm like quickly moving up on Oln, and Oln is acting funky because Malice, and I'm like, you've got to give me that, because he's acting like not right. And finally we get it off of him and we get it in the chest, and I don't remember what happened.
There was like a very much of like, but he basically yelled, I am unwell. And like something
before I got it.
Something like that, or like, it was really cool.
It was
like,
so good.
Like,
Oln pushed me to be far more dramatic. And I love it.
I was just goof. The whole entire time. Yeah, I was just like...
Like, dial the little things up. That's what Oln got me to do. And I appreciate it.
That was really cool. You had a lot of cool moments later.
Which is why I did the murder thing.
I was just in the background at that time. Chilling.
Yeah. So at that point, we had, I think, 14 Malice in the chest. Give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And then... later, I think we ended up with even more.
I think we had 20, honestly.
Yeah, I think we had almost 20.
We had a boatload.
We had a lot at one point. I don't think we quite got there. I think it was closer to like 18 or 19. Like, I had no less than 5 that I brought back in total. 2 of them were later, but that's 3 from me. Another 3 from Oln. You had yours. You brought 2, didn't you?
I had 2 total. 1 from the Arbiter, 1 from the Orcs.
Okay, so that was later. We had a lot of Malice. Our camp had so much Malice. And Oln sat on the chest for like 2 hours because we weren't sure when raiding was able to, like, when combat and everything was done for the night.
Officially, it was like, officially, there was like 3 different times official.
We don't know.
It was like 11, it was like 10, 11, I think 1 o'clock was another number.
Yeah. There were 2 different emails that had 2 different numbers between emails and then the Vatican email, and then the Q&A had a 3rd time yet. So no one really knew when anything was, and I do know that there was an instance where somebody murdered somebody at the masquerade after time was supposed to be done for that kind of thing.
There was supposed to be an assassin at the masquerade because the whole Orange Rose crap. I'm not going to get into Orange Rose, whatever happened there, but I still have no idea what was going on with that because I heard like 5 different stories. Because like there was orange roses, people had orange roses. Maybe it was an assassin, or maybe it was a group of people, or maybe it was
maybe someone just liked handing out orange roses. We don't know.
But now there's someone in the Discord named the Orange Rose, and like it doesn't make anything clearer.
We're just permanently confused. It's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I think something was supposed to happen. Like there was supposed to be 2 murders at the bazaar or something like that.
I don't know. Someone apparently did kill a Hadrian. I think after. We were not supposed to be able to do that. But again, we had no way of knowing. We weren't supposed to carry our phones on us. Like, anything that was immersion breaking, they were like, please keep in your tent during the staff meeting. for Game Start, so most of us did. And then they didn't make any sort of, like, announcement or any clear, like, hey, soft game only now. So, like, you can still cast spells and do things, but you can't, like, get into combat or read the chest. There was no unified, like, we're done, put the malice away kind of thing. We were all very confused. I think Olin said they stayed up till, like, 1 or 2 in the morning just sitting on the chest.
They were the trooper. They were a trooper for doing that.
Kicked butt the whole game. I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They're the reason I had a game at the beginning with getting me ingredients and stuff when I was sitting under that tree.
I was trying my best to get Revna her thing. Like, I'm really glad Olin did that for you, because the only reason I had anything, I couldn't do much.
None of us could do anything because we didn't have anything to start with. We had 10 silver to our name, and that was it. We had no ingredients, we had no spell gems, we had no spell cards. All of us new players were starting from square one. Personally, I'm not a big fan of, and it's something I've talked about quite a bit in the past, both in the Discord and in person with other people. Because Volley didn't come to Reckoning to learn to be a potionsmith. She already was a potionsmith.
We had worked in our background that my mother was a potionsmith and taught her.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was like kind of like she was the potion person for the village.
Right, and we start off knowing 3 or 4 recipes in game. So, like, we would have at least the things we need to make those recipes, and spell scribes aren't coming to Reckoning to learn how to be spell scribes. They already are spell scribes.
I actually liked mine. I think mine was okay, and that's what I was trying to say with Revna earlier. Revna was an arcanist. She needed to buy spells. How the spell scribes worked is you gave them the gems, and they gave you the cards. It was up to you to make the card. Mm-hmm. And that was it. It was transactional, and I liked it. It was good.
Potions were much the same. It was just more convoluted because you had to have the right ingredients, and then they wanted you to give them a bottle as well. So there was more. It was a more in-depth process than the spell scribes had.
It was literally we just gave them magical batteries, and they would like eat different gems at different levels, or you could do different things. You get 2 first level, or maybe 3 second level, whatever. I think you could choose, and that was it. It was simple. It was great. The only reason I was able to sell spells from the beginning was because of the barbed wire. Mm-hmm. And the second I got that, I'm like, okay, for y'all, Revna, here's your stuff. Mm-hmm. There was that Hadrian I lost a bet to.
Yeah, they had sell spells too for cheaper.
Yeah, but it was like, that was the only person I actually sold. That was the only money I made off of spells is from that guy.
Yeah.
He did buy a map.
Oh, nice. And I only sold 1 potion the entire time.
But Owen got you going. Owen helped you out.
Yeah. But it took a lot of silver to get anything moving because the Suzak started with so much from last year. Their prices were very high because they had a lot of silver. So they had a lot of inflation. And we're like, we have 10 silver. No. It cost 9 silver for Olin to get me 7 ingredients.
At the max, I was probably one of the highest rollers in the Vatican. I had 20.
Yeah.
I had 20 silver. Because of the map. Because of an out-of-game thing that I made for in-game. Mm-hmm. And I was like...
Crone DeWin had a gold bar for a bit that she was holding on to that she gave to Torbjorn to save Divin Falls. Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that later. So yeah, that's where most of my money went. Like I said, I had like 20 silver something. I gave everything but 7 or 8 to Torbjorn.
I gave everything but like 2 or 3 silver, I think. And I kept my potion ingredients because that doesn't do us any good.
No, yeah. I kept the silver so I could pay, just in case I needed to buy resources or need to pay a bribe or anything like that. Because like, I was trying to do a lot of the charisma stuff as well. Because like I said, I was trying to bribe the guard and do stuff.
We haven't explained the map game.
Oh, we haven't, yeah.
So basically, there was a game of Risk in Reckoning, but it represented real troops in the game.
I like the concept. I love the concept because with Reckoning, cool there's an economy. Sorry to interrupt. There's all stuff, and the money that you earn from the economy could go to this game, and it would represent the world, and it was really cool.
It's a cool concept, except the Suzak Mar started with hundreds of silver.
And hundreds of silver, and no one knew the game was happening. The only reason I knew anything was because I happened to be there when Torbjorn was reading the rules.
Mm-hmm. And I happened to be one of the dozen people standing near the gate when he talked about it.
And so people didn't know.
Nobody knew.
It was a whole donation thing, sort of. Like, at least ours. I don't know how the other camps did it. It was like, if you have money to spare, we could really use it. And so that's when I gave the 13 or 14 silver to I had. I think I also had some gold. At the point, I did have this gold, but I completely forgot about it. That might have helped. Actually, I mean,
we did okay. We defended.
I had like 30 silver then by that point, if that counts, because I forgot about the gold. I gave as much as I could. Well, the whole thing with the map game is just no one knew about it. No one knew they were supposed to donate or could.
They didn't release the rules because they didn't want people metagaming, which I understand.
Fair,
however, knowing that there was this thing that they planned to put into place day 2 would have been very helpful in just players knowing it existed, because nobody knew about it.
There was also the thing, I don't want to say hilarious thing. So I'm a map maker, right? We had a buddy, a Vatican, who actually asked me to make a risk map for them to play in the tavern.
Because he was going to do, games.
He was going to do a bunch of games.
By the Roost, yeah.
It was going to be so much fun. By the Roost, by the shop that we'd set up. I made him a risk game, and then we found out about it, and I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Crap. This took so much editing to get this down, and if you want to check out the next episode, it's right here.